Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this pin out to pull this arm out, and I'll need to basically drill this back, or cut this back off here and drill a hole in the back here so that I can run a tie rod through here to hook to the servo. So I've had pretty decent success. Press these pins out, these pins push in. So I'm just going to kind of press like that and use my little nose and pull that out. And so here you can see this comes off here. They're spring loaded. We're actually going to get rid of the springs because the servo is going to control that. And then I'm going to trim this down and cut a hole in here and run a tie rod through it. So I'm going to just do that off screen and show you what I got. So here we go, that's what that looks like. This tie rod will fit right in place there, and then this tie rod will push this back and forth, and these will just still be there for stabilization. So the other thing I'm going to do is take one of these servo arms. I'm going to trim it down because I only need the one side of it. And we'll trim them off. And then I'll kind of drill a hole in this. Okay. So now we can take a bolt through there. One of the small bolts that comes with these little arms. I just picked these tie rods up at my local hobby shop. They keep those on hand. I think these are like a 220 thread. And make that hole just a little bigger. And drill this servo arm out a little bit more. Right. So the servo arm's attached, mounted, got the bolt tight. So now this will go back inside there. Oh, I gotta trim that out. Gotta file that out a little bit. See if I can force it. Nope. I'll break it if I force it. So let me go get my Dremel tool. I keep saying Dremel, but it's actually a cordless Milwaukee. There we go. Just need to trim that down a little bit. Let that fit in there. And let's see here. And now it fits. So now all I got to do is put this pin back in there. So you need to trim the top of this arm off just a little bit. There we go. And that squeezes back together. And so now with this right there, just by sheer weight, it'll kind of hold it there. And now I might need to turn that bolt around to get me more clearance. Actually, I need to turn that bolt around. So then I'll just mount my servo so this will push it in and out. So I will get this turned around. Alright, so I got the wires kind of pushed back out of the way. I got the servo arm mounted to the outside to give us some room as that moves back and forth. It won't interfere with the motor. And so as that servo turns forward and backwards, it will be able to give some tilting to this. So when the thing is naturally on, it's going to be about like that. There's actually some stops on the front here to limit how much it can lean forward. So we might take I've ground some of those stops out in the past, which will allow this to go farther forward. But really we just need to tilt back when you're carrying something. And then we'll also have to limit the servo electronically so we're not putting the servo into a bind. But the idea is this is going to just kind of glue right on the back side there. And the length is not bad to where the servo can pull this back or push it forward. So I got to get the arm adjusted right so that it will get the travel that I'm looking for, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to glue this down right here, but I've got this centered up, and so now I can basically lean this back and lean this forward. It doesn't have the most travel in the world, and again there's some spacer blocks on the bottom that I can grind down to get some more travel out of that, and I may or may not do that. I think I kind of want to let it lean forward a little more. So, alright, moving on a little bit. I'm going to grind just a little bit off the bottom. These are the stoppers that push against here. We want to be sure when you do that you don't hit this string, because once that string's broke, it is a bear to get that fixed again. So you want to be very cautious as you're doing that. My string's already kind of off the guide, which I'll fix that here in a little bit. But when we trim this down, we want to be very careful not to cut that string. So I'm going to do that off camera so I don't mess it up. Okay, so now after doing some trimming and taking some stops out, I've got a lot of range on there that's unobstructed. Ground them down a little bit to give us some room there, and then there was a small little stop right in the base of that forklift that I took out. So we get some room now, and their servo shouldn't bind very hard. I take some sandpaper, roughen up the side of the servo where I'm going to glue it down. I took some isopropyl alcohol on a little sponge brush, kind of wiped off because there's a little bit of oily residue on there. So cleaning that up, once I got that all off, then I'll scuff this up a little bit as well so that the glue will take. If you were just glue it down, that oily residue and the smooth plastic, it just doesn't bind nearly as well. So now I am ready to glue that down. Once I find my super glue, that again everything is disappearing on this desk. I didn't clean before I started this video, which is bad. If you watch my videos, my desk is always a mess. Okay. So we'll put some glue across the top here. There we go. And it's going to go right there. Hold that down for a second or two. Set that off. Put that on there while I'm doing this, and we will test it momentarily here. We'll give that glue kind of a chance to set up. Keep the pressure on there. Let me get the screw out to hold this on. Then once we got this done, this is most of the build. Next we'll move on to LEDs. So I'll screw that on there. Let's go and just test this real quick. And just again, a messy desk. Oh my goodness. Okay, so now I am going to bring my receiver back here. And we'll plug that into my power supply. So I'm going to hold this down. The main housing will actually hold that down when we're doing it. So now we've got control over the tilt as well. So again, it's not the most area there, but we have something. It's better than nothing. So that's the main part of the drives, the steering servo, the tilt servo. Before we get all this bundled up in there, I will add some weights in here. Again, just taking some hot glue, dump it in there, and then I got a container of BBs that are really nice weights. I do want to go ahead and solder a power lead on. So I'm going to turn my soldering iron back on. And so I've got a I buy a pack of these just simple male-female adapters that I will put in here to hook into the switch so that I can cut power on this. So this will hook into power and go into the switch there, so we might as well solder that in while we're in here, and then we'll move on to putting in LEDs. Okay, we'll get this hot. Separate these wires a little bit. Make that a little easier. There we go. So now we have LED or power, so we can use the existing power switch. So we're going to set this to the side for right now and move back on to the outer half, the cosmetics. I unbolted this top rack because what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill out a hole here, and a hole back here, and just using hot glue LEDs in there. I'll trim this out a little bit to have a little bit of wire management, and the wires are going to come down this side, so I'm going to drill a hole right in the top side of the housing here to get the wires down underneath. And while we're at it, we're also going to knock out these so we have a room to put a battery pack. So I'll use a combination of needle nose to kind of pull these metal tabs out. So we'll no longer use those. You know, now I'm thinking about it, we could just use double A's. 1, 2, 3. You know what? Before I do that, I'm going to think about that for a second. Tell you what, I just changed my mind. I'm going to use that battery pack. I only need 4.5 volts, and 3 AA's are 4.5 volts. I've started in the front of the video to using that LiPo pack, and actually that LiPo is a 2S, which is too much for these servos anyway, so I'd need to get like a 1S. If I'm doing that, I might as well just use this. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to wire or solder wires onto this battery lead. Knowing that, I should have left them alone. I'll put a note in the back of the video for that. Leave those wires alone and just reuse them. So I'll solder them into the switch. But I'm going to put LEDs in this. And I've got, at work I have a bunch of these lenses that come off control panels. They're just an amber lens. And so what I'll do on a lot of these is I've bought a whole pack a long time ago, don't know where I got them, of just a simple blinking LED. So I'll stick one of those blinking LEDs up in there and mount this to the top so it has kind of a a flashing strobe, as you might say. So we're going to use the wonders of YouTube, and there we are. So I've got, like I said, drilled holes out. Got 2 LEDs in the front. Got a small LED in the back. I 3D printed just a little base that lens screws onto, and shoved a blinking LED up in there. You notice I kind of just use hot glue to hold them in place. Put a little bit of black tape on there to kind of try to hide that a little bit. And so now I got some lights on this. That all I have to do now is make a hole. So I'm going to get my Dremel tool out again, and I'm just going to cut that out right there. All right, get that pushed through there. All right, so that fits down in there now. So we'll get this wire fed. And now we can screw that back together. All right, so there we got lights in the front, in the back. If you want to see what they look like real quick, we'll go ahead and plug them in. So there we go. We got that blinking LED on top, 2 in the back. And actually I put a blue light in the back. A lot of the factories you see those blue light spotlights shining down when you're in reverse. So I think kind of looks kind of good. All I got to do now is solder the wire back on from the battery pack down to my switch and put it back together. My tip. All right, so we are now ready to put this back together and test this out. So here's the lead for my battery pack. So that's going to go to the switch. and then from the switch is going to go to the receiver to power the receiver up. So I'll put that up top here. Let's go ahead and throw some batteries in there. Alright, so I got 3 AA batteries. Let's get them in there properly. And now we'll turn the switch on from underneath. Oh, switch was already on. I turned it off. Okay, so we will hook the, I'm going to start hooking these kind of one at a time just to get the channel on that I want. So let's start with okay. So that I want to put on, let's see, I believe I want to put that on number 3. Let's see here. Nope. There we go. So I do need to reverse that. I'll worry about that later. And now I'm going to make this number 1. Let's see, what was I on there? Okay, I'm on number 2 there. So let's put this one on number 3. And I'll need to reverse that as well. But I got my forks going there. Okay, so let's put the steer servo on number 1. I really like that steering. I do need to trim that. There we go. Perfect. So I've got mast control. Need to reverse that. Forward and backwards. Steering. Oh, I gotta hook up my tilt. We're gonna put that on number 4. There we go. And then, last but certainly not least, is throw some lights in there. So I'll hook that up as I put it together. I do want to throw weights on here, but I'm going to put this together and do a little bit of playing. Alright, so now we'll take this forklift and do a little playing now that the conversion's done. This forklift would be a lot better if it had uh, a slip axle. The drive axle is a solid shaft, and so it does make it hard to turn. And there you are. So if you're ready to convert a forklift from VAT 19, this video is not sponsored by VAT 19, but I'm open for something. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Maybe check out some other conversion videos, and we'll be. My son and I did a little bit of playing last night, so we're posting videos of actually running the toys and not just working on them. So hope you enjoyed it. Hey, you have a good day.